That breaks every model in my head. Like, who would pay $1,000 for a 60-minute call with another human? It's much easier to sell a small amount of a thing that has a big ticket to people that have money than trying to sell a $30 course to 4,000 broke people. People won't love this, but really your price is dictated on your own confidence to sell the product. Next to that first launch I've ever done, it's the only other thing that's been in that category of just like, whoa. Like, we give away all of our tools and all of our training for free, and then 1% of people hire us to coach them.
Interesting.
We need nothing else to hit on $100 million a year. 5 hours of my time a week on a typical week that I enjoy. I've actually never seen that work one time, ever. I've seen people say it works.
Today, we dive deep into how to make millions online by helping people solve real problems without getting distracted by shiny objects. My guest today, Bryan Harris, built growth tools from scratch into an 8-figure business by focusing obsessively on 2 things: high-ticket coaching and borrowing other people's audiences. What's fascinating is that Bryan gives away all his tools and training for free and still has a 50% success rate when pitching partnerships. In this episode, we break down exactly how Bryan thinks about product creation, marketing channels, and scaling a coaching business from 0 to multiple millions. You'll learn his brilliant 5-question sales framework that converts at 10%, how he structures his coaching program to make it impossible to fail, and the precise steps he'd take to build a 7-figure coaching business from scratch in just 12 months. Even if you never plan to offer coaching, Bryan's insights about solving real problems and borrowing audiences will change how you think about growing your business. So whether you're just starting out or looking to add a high-ticket offer to your existing business, this episode is packed with actionable gold you can implement right away. Bryan shared a lot of details about how his business works, so I'll unpack everything at the end of this episode as well. And before we get started, this episode of the Authority Hacker podcast is sponsored by Search Intelligence. More of them a little later, but now time for the interview. I actually want to start by thanking you because you've been really a big part of the success of Authority Hacker and our business. Back in the early days in 2015, you had a ton of great content on your blog on Video Fruit about product launches, scarcity, how to sell, how to do all your pre-launch content. And much of it we still follow to this day. Has literally made us millions, if not tens of millions of dollars over the year. So, very much appreciated that you've done that in the past, and I'm very much looking forward to today.
Totally. Like, my favorite thing to do, and really the flywheel of my business, is solve our own problems and then tell other people what we did that worked. And then some people hire us to coach them. So like 1%, we just try to give away all of our tools and all of our trainings that we've discovered, because like 90% of it doesn't work. It's like we're the crash test dummies to figure out the crap that doesn't work, and then try to find the 10% that really is hard to screw up and is kind of fun to do and works well, and then give that out to as many people as possible. And then some folks hire us. So that's the business model. I think we accidentally did that in the early days. I think the post you read was the first product launch I ever did, and it happened to go well. And I just shared all the emails and the calendar and the strategy and everything that I've learned from many people, I'm sure, contributed to that. And yeah, when we do launches, I literally go back to that blog post and pull up the emails and everything and use that as a starting point because it worked really well. So yeah, thanks. I'm glad it helped y'all, and that's an honor to be a small part of y'all's journey.
Yeah, and it's great. It's so authentic when you can create content like that. You don't have to sort of pretend to be this guru and it's just, here's what I did. If you like it, you'll get some value from it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Freely you've received, freely you give. Which, I think is where our radars trip up online when people try to, like the 16-year-old life coach. It's like, stop. You haven't lived life. You can't coach it. But if you've received a thing, like, you don't have to have taught 1,000 people to be a coach or be an authority in an area. Like, you just, if you've got it, you can give it. Like, if you have $100, you can give $100 away. But if you don't have it, you literally, like, physically actually can't give the thing you don't have. So if you've received the transformation, you've received, like you went through that one time, totally teach another person. And through the process of teaching it, you're going to get way better. Like, have accelerated drastically because I've coached from nearly day one. So I'm always teaching, like, literally the thing I learned last week. We found a new, like, for example, this summer, we found a new webinar strategy that's been just... Next to that first launch I've ever done, it's the only other thing that's been in that category of just like, whoa, like exponentially more effective than anything I've ever touched in that category before. So immediately, like as soon as the second one worked, I'm like, all right, I think we're onto something. It wasn't just blind luck. I started giving it to clients, and now they've been seeing like 4 of the 5 people I've given it to saw the exact same thing. I'm like, all right, like I should write a blog post about this because like this is working exceptionally well. I've never seen that structuring concept before anywhere. I'm sure somebody's doing it because the internet's a big place, but that's fun. And as I teach it, it makes the framework better, which helps me understand why it's actually working so that I can like find like the real first principle of the thing and do more of it and apply it to other areas beyond just webinars. So like it's just almost in my own selfish best interest to try to give away as much as possible, teach it the second I find it, and let other people know about it because it just makes me better and grows the business. So it's fun. I love doing business that way. I think Nathan Barry was the first person I heard use the phrase to learn out loud. And like, I love that. It's like, it's kind of fun to do as you go. So
it's kind of like the pain of creating course content. I've made probably over 1,000 videos now in our members area, and going through it and trying to document what's in your head is really, really difficult to do in a way that's going to be accessible to everybody. But like the pain of doing that just forces you to get much better at yourself, at the thing yourself. And I think that's what's driven a lot of our sort of discoveries and innovations is, having to actually put this thing we do internally in front of other people and stand up to the rigor of other people's judgment, really. And that's been great for that. So, yeah. I'd like to start, if we can, by talking about product creation, product design, or what to sell, really. And the reason I want to start here is because we have a number of people in our audience who we come from a largely SEO kind of background. A lot of people have been maybe burned by Google in the last year or so. Helpful content update, and that hasn't been so great. And while a lot of people are good at driving traffic, the what to sell and the product has often been a bit of an afterthought. So many people would just rely on ads or affiliate offers and not really go far beyond that. You, though, are fantastic at kind of designing and developing products and offers and services. And I know it's kind of changed over the years how you position that, but what's your kind of ethos, or like how do you go about deciding what someone should sell?
Business 101 is like have a product. So if you want to generate revenue, you must have a thing to sell. So I think people come at business at lots of different angles. People that get into it from an SEO perspective hear about the idea of driving traffic and the passivity of it and all that stuff and kind of get enamored with a mechanism. It's like becoming obsessed over a hammer. It's like, yeah, but a hammer, like who cares? What they want is a house. So if you try to sell hammers, that sucks. Like you're going to compete against all the other hammers, and my steel is stronger, and my handle is more padded, and mine's longer, mine's shorter, whatever. It's like, but you're in the hammer business. Like who cares? You're never going to do well doing that. But if you're in the selling houses business, like that's what people actually want. People buy that. They don't care about the mechanisms and the tools to get there. So it's like AI right now. Everyone is obsessed with AI, and it's an awesome new tool. But selling AI is not a thing to sell unless you're open AI. Then sure, go sell it because you're on the absolute forefront. But nobody is that. But you can sell what AI does. You can sell the product of the thing. So for me, like, and when I came up, and still to this day, I mean, it's been 11 or 12 years now, the number one business model that was talked about was the Ascension Model. So you started really low, $9 PDF, and you worked your way up to the $50 thing and the $100 course and the $500 course and eventually the $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 mastermind thing. Whatever. And you're going to start super low, get a whole bunch of people in, and then some people will buy all the way up. I've seen a lot of things work in business over a decade in online business, and many things work like well. I've actually never seen that work one time, ever. I've seen people say it works, but I'm talking about look behind the scenes of the business and show me your P&L and show me that you're actually driving meaningful revenue from all those little tiny products. And so they're actually leading into the bigger products. Never once, ever. Now, the internet's big, so I'm sure it has for somebody somewhere. I've even seen behind the business of the people that teach those things. Not working for them either. They're making 90% of their product on the big course that sells the thing telling you to do low ticket stuff. So like that model is just, at the very least, extremely difficult. Because you have to have traffic flows, funnel flows, and good sales copy for a dozen products. And it is really hard to do with one product, much less a dozen of them all daisy chained together. Like that is just world-class elite marketing talent needed to do that. And that's what like everyone teaches. Like that is the predominant business model. Ascend up. So when I was just a few years ago, I was studying Elon and becoming enamored about him and his entrepreneurial approach and all that stuff. And he's the first person in the U.S. to start a car company in the last 100 years that didn't go bankrupt. So it's like, all right, like are you just super genius, dude? And that's the real secret sauce? Is it, what is it that you're a kind of a jerk to a lot of people and angry all the time? Like, what's your thing? Like, what's the secret sauce? And what I discovered was with Tesla specifically, he used the Descension model. So every car company that failed tried to start with the mass market, the low ticket, entry level. They're competing with the Camry and the Sentra and all these entry level cars that from Toyota and Nissan and Ford. And like, bro, those people have been around a long time. You don't have the production volume. You don't have the buying capacity. So your stuff's going to be more expensive. So you literally can't compete on price, and your stuff probably isn't as good because you just started. So like, you're just totally screwed. So he just did the opposite. He started at the very top of the market. Started with the Roadster that was like a couple $100,000 car, sold it to very wealthy people. Like George Clooney bought the third Tesla. So like George isn't too worried about whether this Roadster costs $10,000 more than the Maserati. Who cares? It's a status symbol. He doesn't even drive it every day. And then the next thing he did was work down to the mid-market where the Model S and Model X fit. And they're still $100,000 cars. But again, lots of profit margin. People that aren't like shopping price everywhere. They're looking for a cool car. They're looking for a status symbol. And then after like almost 2 decades working at the top and the middle, he went into entry level, the Model S and the Model 3 that you see driving around everywhere. But like it took him 20 years to get there. So he just did the Descension model. And that model is really hard to screw up actually. Because, okay, so take this to online business. If you're selling like a $50, or for me, when I first started, I sold a $30 course. I needed to sell 4,000 of them in a year to get 100 grand. And my goal was 100 grand so I could bring my wife from home and we can start a family. Like I wanted her to not have to work if she didn't want to. 4,000 copies of a thing. That's a lot of copies of a thing. Then one day I got this email from a guy promoting a coaching offer, and he was charging $1,000 for the coaching thing, for an hour-long call with him. Like, this is utterly absurd. Like, that breaks every model in my head. Like, who would pay $1,000 for a 60-minute call with another human? And this guy wasn't some A-list celebrity. He's just a well-known marketer type. And anyways, but I start doing the math. I'm like, well, okay, if I have a high-ticket coaching offer, let's say I charge $10,000 for it, and it takes 6 months or a year to go through it, all I need to do is sell 10 copies, like 10 total to hit my $100,000 goal versus 4,000 of my $30 course. Like, I don't know how I would sell it for 10 grand, but like that seems like that would be easier to do. So I started trying it, and it is easier to sell what I've discovered after doing it myself and walking a lot of other people through it. It's much easier to sell a small amount of a thing that has a big ticket to people that have money than trying to sell a $30 course to 4,000 broke people. Like, that is just not easy to do. So we just went all in on the Descension model. Let's just start at the top of the market. And let's generate profit and revenue.
$10,000 is that price point, or there's a range there as well.
Yeah, 5 to 10 grand is what everybody has their own definitions for high ticket, but when people are starting out in coaching, like usually 5 to 10 grand is the price range. But what I've also found, people won't love this, but really your price is dictated on your own confidence to sell the product. I've tried so many complicated pricing structures. There was a Gary Vee video I watched years ago. I've gone back to try to find it. I can't find it now. This is from like 2010 or 2009. And they're asking him how he set his price for his agency when he very first started VaynerMedia. And he's like, well, my first client, they're like, well, how much would it cost? And he's like, I don't know, 10 grand. They're like, sold. And the next client, they're like, how much would it cost? And he's like, 20 grand, sold. The next client, he's like, 50 grand. They said, hell no. He's like, okay, 20 grand. They're like, sold. So that's literally, pricing is a very inexact science, despite people having super complicated formulas for it. But yeah, we typically start people at 5 grand for a coaching package. And that you can sell it really well. And you don't need to sell that many to make, like for $1 million business, 100 clients. And you make $1 million. Like finding 100 people at 10 grand, substantially easier than 4,000 or 40,000 at $30. The amount of traffic you need, the amount of asynchronous marketing assets you need, it's just like way more difficult, practically, skill-wise, to do that.
Yeah, it's just everything gets more complex when you have more people involved. The customer support, the billing, like all of these like little details that when you're starting out you don't really think about, become infinitely easier when you're just dealing with a handful of people.
Yeah, totally.
So can you talk us a little bit about? You talked about coaching as a kind of product here, and you talked about in the past selling courses. What is it that you offer at the moment, and what do you recommend other people should start with?
Yeah. So if I were starting over today, and if I were coaching anybody under $1 million, almost every time I would say start with high ticket coaching. It is the simplest, the hardest to screw up, and the fastest to get going of anything I found. I would not start with the course. Significantly more complex to do. So yeah, that's what we do. We sell coaching, and you can take a coaching business to $10+ million a year just by focusing on that. If your goal is to get to 100 million, you're going to need probably some other product mixes in there, or let the complexity of the coaching product evolve. But if your goal is to hit $1 million, $10 million, somewhere around that mark, coaching is by far the fewest moving parts, hardest to screw up thing you can get going the quickest. The marketing mechanisms are way simpler. The fulfillment mechanisms are way simpler. And the skill level needed to do it is way lower, because you're engaging with humans directly. And when you engage with humans directly, you can overcome a lot of inefficiencies and a lot of deficiencies just by human interaction. But if all your stuff's asynchronous, your crap better be tight. Everything better be P's and Q's. If you're optimizing for, my red flags just go way up. If you're I know nothing about marketing, how can I have a passive business that makes $100,000 in the next 12 months? It's you won't actually. That's the answer. Never seen it one time ever. If you're starting from scratch, ain't happening. It just won't. I just tell you. And if you go in that, maybe 0.1% of people will get there, but the normal person ain't ever getting there with that mindset, with that work ethic, or even starting with that product type. Practically never happens. But the number of people I've seen with low skill set, meaning they're just starting off, so they're not a seasoned marketer or a seasoned product person, or have some built-in advantage based on they've been working in the industry for 20 years at another company. That's a different scenario. But if you're starting like I was, I would start day one with high ticket coaching. I need 10 of them to hit 100 grand, and that's an easy. You can work 10 to 15 hours a week and do that. That's super doable and super possible, because you need 10 total people. So for me, that's what we do is high ticket coaching. We don't sell anything else. So our business model is we give away all of our tools and all of our training for free, and then 1% of people hire us to coach them.
Interesting.
We need nothing else to hit $100 million a year.
And how much of the coaching are you personally doing? How much are you involved in?
I keep 5 clients, and we have several hundred. I find that I've coached since 2014, so 10 years, one-on-one. I find that, it's the best product development I can do for making our core product better is to be frontline. So it's 5 hours of my time a week on a typical week that I enjoy. I would say this, if you hate the idea of working with people, of teaching and coaching people, you should not start a coaching business. You should also not start a course business or a membership site. You need to do something else. If you do not like helping people, even a course, man, if you're I want to record my crap one time and put it out there and just sell a bunch of copies, that's a bad idea. Your stuff will suck. You will eventually go out of business. That just ain't the business for you. I got a buddy who runs a very successful coaching business. He doesn't like coaching. I know what will happen with that business because he doesn't like coaching. He doesn't coach, doesn't like it, doesn't care about it, doesn't like interacting with people all that much. It's bro, just pick a different product type. What are you doing? So their coaching has just hit a cap, and it will never get over that because he doesn't get it. He doesn't coach. He doesn't like getting in the weeds with people. So for me, I spend 5 hours. You can spend as much as you want. So that's about the max for me. I love working on the business, not being super weedsy in the business. So I love strategic thinking and working with that. And most of my time is spent in person with people. So my clients, I typically bring in person once a quarter, and we charge more for the people I work with. And I really enjoy it. It's fun.
Do you have some kind of value ladder there where there's extra things or more, one-on-one coaching or something else? Or do you just have the one coaching package that everybody goes through? Is it kind of productized in that way?
Yeah. So we have our core product. That's what 90% of people go through. For people that are doing over $1 million a year, they will typically come to me directly, and they pay 10x what our typical clients pay. Just because those organizations are significantly more complex, they're actually harder to work with pretty much in every measurable way. Working with somebody at $25 million, significant more brain power and effort need to be given than somebody working at zero that's never done it before. In fact, the success rate will be higher over here than over here with the $25 million people, because those people typically have lots of institutional baggage, lots of people rewiring, and all kind of crap you got to work through before you get to the hyper tactical thing they actually hired you to do. Because there's things that have caused the problems they have. So it's like somebody with a golf swing that's jacked up. Like if you've been playing golf for 20 years and your golf swing sucks, like that's more work than training a beginner.
You got to unfix it before you fix
a bunch of stuff. So they're just more work to work on. I like working with them. I actually enjoy those organizations. But like 3 of my 4, I think I have 4 currently. 3 of my 4 are those people, and one of them is kind of a beginner. You know, they're like $800,000 a year. Those other 3 are like $20 to $30 million a year companies. But the majority of our people are, you know, $0 to $250,000. Those are the main thing. But all of them are the same. Like, it's the same exact mechanics for all of them. The more mature, like a marriage. You know, you get 30 years in, you got a bunch of crap you got to work through. Day one, you don't have a lot of trauma in the marriage because like you haven't been married, so there's not enough crap to work through. So it's just, you know, more work over here to help those folks. So that's pretty much it. We have one core product. We charge 10 times more for people that are 10 times bigger.
And have you gone down the Descension ladder and made cheaper products or other things kind of higher up the chain?
No, we just don't need it. I mean, you could, like, we could sell a course and do a launch and blah, blah, blah. It's just like that accomplishes 0 business objective. Mm-hmm. So we've sold all that. We've sold membership, course, book, software, but all that stuff now we just give away for free. It's like to hit any revenue goal, we don't need it. It makes the business significantly more complex. People drastically underestimate what adding one more product to their business does. We got to $500,000. Let's add another product. That's a terrible idea. You can take that one product to one customer with one good marketing channel and focus on it for a decade and take that sucker to 10, 20, $50 million. You do not need a second thing. But there's opportunity and people say they want it. That's awesome. Yeah, the people ask for stuff all the time. That doesn't mean if you don't have a whole team to take care of that, you're screwed. And it'll be a net negative. You'll make revenue from it. And if you have a list, you'll trick yourself into thinking that product is the reason you got the revenue. It's not. It's that you have a loyal list. So I think those businesses like ours are especially susceptible to these opportunity things we see. Whereas keep focused on Elon did one car for 20 years. He could have done the Model 3 in 2010, but it wouldn't have worked. You'd have sold some and made some money. But could you sustain that? Do you have a marketing team that can focus on that product and get that message as dialed in as your main one is? No, you don't. So don't touch it. Leave it alone. Come back to it later. You can put it on the list to come back to in a decade. Now, there's one thing that's kind of formed our thinking quite a bit, and it is, I think, the most root level entrepreneur question I can find, and it's kind of been our answer to the question has been the guiding force in the business since 2019, 2020, so 4 or 5 years now. And it is what is a problem so interesting you would gladly bet the next 10 to 20 years of your life on solving it? Mm-hmm. So what's that? And that's a question to sit with. What is that? What's a problem so interesting you gladly bet 10 to 20 years on solving it? Because if you then optimize for that, you'll win. And every question goes through that. The question doesn't go through how can we make more money. You do need money. It's the fuel. So you got to make sure you don't run out of money. That's good. More you have, more you can develop if you're thinking correctly. But the number one question though is for Elon, how do we colonize Mars? So if an asteroid hits or Putin sends the nukes up, civilization and humans don't cease to exist. That's the number one optimization point. And it truly is. You track his activity inside of SpaceX. That's actually what they're attempting to do. So then a lot of innovation comes from that. You would not do the innovative things he's done with space if you weren't optimizing for that endpoint. If you're doing United Launch Alliance, his top competitor, and if you're optimizing for revenue from sending stuff to space, you would do what ULA's done, which is 0 innovation ever, basically. But Elon's had to create relanding rockets. He's had to create the Starship thing that's 100x better than anything ever made. Starlink was an accidental byproduct of all of that. A $50 billion company, Starlink, well, it's an accidental byproduct of optimizing for a problem he found so interesting he'd glad to bet the next 20 years of your life on solving it. So I'm just encourage everybody, what is that for you? And then just ask yourself, okay, what's the simplest, most effective path to that? And it's not going to be 700 products because that will kill your chance of success.
Do you find that that's a harder question to ask now that we're in this kind of rapidly changing era of AI and, there seems a lot of uncertainty, let's say, about the future?
Oh, no. I mean, every generation that's ever existed had their moment of my grandparents had the Spanish flu, World War I, World War II, and the Cuban Missile Crisis. We ain't lived through anything like that. No, things are different. AI, blah, blah, blah. People still have problems. Fundamental business 101, solve their problems. They exchange value for it. So what is the problem you're actually solving it? And you want to obsess over making sure completely gets solved for the human race in 20 years. That. Like, fast forward back 150 years ago, 80%, 90% of all humans on Earth up to that time, 10,000 years of civilization, spent every waking hour they were agrarian society. They were farmers, meaning every waking hour was spent producing food. So the number one thing we spent our time on was food production because we had to eat to live. So it's like, makes sense. We're all farmers or some variation of that, the vast majority of us. And then food production got solved, meaning I can just take dollars and go to the store and get strawberries in the middle of the winter somehow. I don't know how that happens, but somebody's spending a bunch of time on it. Like, industrial food stuff happens. And now none of us really have to think about that all that much. So like, somebody solved the food problem. Henry Ford solved the transportation problem. Like, I just can go pay 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand and buy a car, put my keys in it, it works. I can go anywhere I want. I don't have to think about that. There's so many problems that have not been solved. Like, think about marriage. It is way easier to have a terrible marriage than a great marriage. So how could you make it almost impossible to fail at having a great marriage? What would that look like? What if your product was obsessively optimized over the next 20 years to solve that? Because you could.
So you're saying kind of become obsessive about focusing on defining the problem and focusing on how to solve it. I think that's really good because a lot of people, they go on social media and they see a lot of people talking about a subject, marriage or whatever it might be, and they kind of get lost and drowned out in the noise of that. Whereas those people aren't really focused on solving those problems at the core level like that. They just want to, get attention.
Yeah. So you take your course, your marriage course. We'll keep using marriage as an example. What's your success rate? It comes down to that. Literally, when somebody hires you, have them take a survey to say on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with your marriage? And then 90 days later, measure it again. And then 90 days later, measure it again. And then 90 days later, measure it again. And do they go from a 1 to a 10? And what percentage of your people that hire you do that? That's the measurement of almost impossible to fail at the thing. And ignore every human that's ever talked about marriage and how they've tried to solve it, because none of them have fixed it. Observe reality. We all suck at it. 50% of us get divorced. Like, we legitimately are terrible at marriage somehow. And it's the most intimate relationship that exists on earth, and we totally suck at it. So who cares what anybody's ever said or tried to done? It has failed. So what about you? The next 1,000 people that hire you or buy your thing, measure them and find the sticking points. Like, just think about it from first principles. Ignore the advice, ignore all that stuff, and say, all right, what are the levers that actually move it? So here's one. Couples that pray together every day, their divorce rates are like 4%. That one thing.
Really?
Because, this is wild, by the way. Different surveys and studies have shown people are more scared to pray with their spouse than get naked with their spouse. They're more scared of emotional, spiritual vulnerability than they are physical vulnerability. That's wild. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of things there somebody that's smarter than me can untangle. So if you're building a course whose single purpose is not to teach things, who cares about teaching things? I don't want to learn things, actually. I want to learn things as a means to an end to accomplish some result. So in marriage, it's like, all right, what do people need to do? And then how could you, once they hire you, how could you make it almost impossible for them not to do the things that lead to having a great marriage? So just keep asking that question nonstop, and you will have the best version of the product that's ever existed, and you will solve the problem. So just what needs to happen to make that happen? That determines your product type, that determines your features, that determines what's there and what's not there, because simply you're just trying to solve that. Because if you have a course, a coaching program, a software, I don't care what the product type is, where 10,000 people hire you, and a year later, those 10,000 people went from a super bad marriage to the best marriage they ever thought possible, you will never have a problem selling a thing or charging more money or making money ever again in your entire life.
Because it becomes kind of like a product-led marketing in a way when you develop a really solid product like that.
Yeah, so just business 101, solve problems. Don't create traffic sources. That's a means to an end to sell a product that solves a problem. If you're in the business of SEO and you're like, I drive traffic, it's like, no, you don't. Like, nobody cares about traffic. You're in the business of, let's say you're an agency, you're in the business of selling the product of the company that hired you. Who gives a flying crap if you went from 0 traffic to 10 million traffic? Did their bottom line go up and they affect their client base? That's what they actually care about. So if you're not doing that, then who cares? You sold a bunch of hammers to people that don't know how to build houses. Great. Now we got a bunch of hammers in a dump. So you literally wasted your time. So you got to know what business you're in, and all businesses are in the business of solving problems and providing value. And value isn't the thing that most people think. Nobody cares about traffic. Nobody cares about visits to a sales page. Nobody cares about the article ranking. All that is hammers. It's a means to an end. It is you're in the business of selling their stuff. And you'll know this when they fire you because you didn't move the needle and they paid you $10,000 a month and they didn't make $10,000 a month out of it. So, okay, but your traffic went up by $1 million. Who cares? It doesn't matter at all. So you have to know the business you're in and you have to know the problem you're solving and then ruthlessly, obsessively optimize for the highest success rates possible. That will create the most unique product ever created in your market. And when you have that, you don't even need marketing. You don't need traffic. It'll drive itself. Like just look at AI. That's the most unique tool invented in my entire lifetime. And it's the fastest growing product ever in my lifetime. Just the best one ever made. Better than the internet, better than the iPhone, more innovative, more magical, like than all of that stuff. And it's the fastest growing, highest revenue thing in any of our lifetimes. I don't know if we'll ever see another thing like that. So take that to your product and your market. Like, what are they trying to do? Forget how it's done. Who cares about how it's done? Make it better.
I think it's really interesting. You made a point there about not focusing too much on these raw numbers. And as an SEO, we're all guilty of that. But at the end of the day, traffic, it's a vanity metric, right? It doesn't, you can't take it to the bank. And even with this kind of like Ascension model, where you have a funnel, top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, I see far too many people focused on the raw numbers, like going through each stage, and they're trying how can I get more people to visit this landing page? But a visit is not, all visits are not created equal, right? It's like the quality of the people going through. And I think that gets lost in a lot of funnel optimizers, let's say.
So go back to coaching for a minute, because I love funnel optimization. We have trackers and hardcore track numbers and all that stuff. A+, you got to do it. But you can't lose, like that's the 1-inch view off the ground. If you don't have a 10,000-foot view that makes sense with anything and how humans work, like you're going to lose, or you're just going to be running a rat race competing against the same people over and over again. So one reason I love coaching is your success rates are higher than any version that exists. Your transformation rates are higher than any other product type that exists that I have found. So with an agency, there's just so many markets an agency doesn't work. You can't have a marriage agency. Let me just do it for you. It's like, yeah, it's just us two. Parenting agency doesn't work. So like some markets allow themselves to be agency, but that produces zero transformation for the humans that actually need it. Do it yourself, self-guided. Your success rates are always going to be below 10%, usually below 1%, because they have to do it themselves and usually need guardrails. The thing I love about coaching specifically is you can have 90% success rates, and the personal transformation rate is through the roof. So it's like I found my way here, not by like, ooh, I love coaching, let's do that. It was just like, well, agency has its problems, do it yourself has its problems. They're fine. Like they're good. I buy those products. They're fine. But like for actually producing transformation and results and innovation, like coaching simplest, I can start coaching today with no product, no website or any of that stuff. It's bare bones. Start coaching somebody tomorrow, generate revenue, and innovate my way to the best possible solution of the problem. So it's just the simplest to start with, and it has the highest impact rate than anything else.
Probably more rewarding as well. You're actually seeing people go through that change and the results of it. Sometimes as a course creator, put out all this content, and you don't really often get to see people implement it and what happens afterwards because it's asynchronous, right?
Well, think about an author. They got an even worse deal.
Yeah.
They don't even know how many books they've sold. Trying to track anything there is just like a hot mess. So like you get a book and I don't know, is it off your shelf? Did you ever even open it? I have no, at least us course people, like we can at least track and see something. Authors are just like, they're the ultimate low ticket. The success rate, the open rate, the completion rates are like fractions of a percentage point. So to have an actual impact on humans, you have to sell tens of thousands of copies on the off chance that someone will actually pay attention to anything. Even if they buy it, that means nothing. I got 100 books on my shelf I've never opened before. So like I haven't produced no transformation, but I guarantee if I pay 10 grand, it doesn't sit on the shelf. I open it, I pay attention, and I follow every word of what they're saying. Just because like I pay attention to what I put my money into.
Yeah. And now for a quick word from the episode sponsor, Search Intelligence.
This is how we landed massive links for our client in The Sun, a DR90 website, and many other UK news websites. We have used freely available data from YouGov to simply find out what the nation's favorite car brand is and which brands people love the most. Of course, Rolls-Royce came out on top, Aston Martin second, and Jaguar third. We put these insights in a short email and sent it to journalists that write about cars and to national news desks on behalf of our client. Within a few days, our client got featured in all the Suns, as well as many regional newspaper sites in the UK, gaining DR90 links to their leasing comparison website. YouGov website is full of unlimited PR stories with data already available for free. All you have to do is to start researching their data and start asking the data questions. You will be surprised of the unlimited PR campaigns that you will find there that can help you build massive exposure and links to your or your clients' websites. I hope this video is helpful and inspirational.
Thanks again to the sponsor from today's episode, Search Intelligence. And now back to the episode. So we've talked about this idea of coaching, right? How does someone go about marketing that or getting clients, getting like essentially selling it?
Yeah. So I'll share my kind of decision criteria for picking a marketing channel, and then I'll share usually the first one I use for practically any client for coaching. So my criteria for picking a thing, I don't really care what it is. SEO, YouTube, cold DMs, Instagram, content, blogs, email lists, whatever. Like I don't have like a strong preference. But what I want is something that is fun, because if I'm not enjoying it, I'm going to quit it. So if I get 6 months into SEO and I stop, well, I've just wasted all my time. If I get 2 months into ad spend and I stop because I lose money, wasted my time, whatever. So I gotta enjoy it. Second thing is, if I get C+ results, will I still win? So do I have to be A+ world class at it for it to work? Or can I try my best, get kind of C+, C- results, and I still win? Those are my main two criteria. So what I have found after experimenting with practically everything I've ever heard anybody talk about, which was like the first decade of me online, it's just like, what is everybody saying? Let me just try all of it. Is the simplest way, the main model that is taught. There's different ways to get to it. SEO can be one, or lots of things. The main marketing model, though, that's taught online that honestly everyone agrees with. It's like the one thing in online marketing that if you just go study 100 people, they'll all say that. They'll disagree on everything else, but that one thing, it says the Venn diagram overlap is that. And now I disagree with it. Not disagree, it works. It's just like, it's way too complicated. You don't have to do that. And it is build an audience, sell to the audience. The main marketing approach taught online that I sold a course called Get 10,000 Subscribers about growing an audience and selling to it. So I'm a fan. Build an audience. So you go publish this content and give away stuff. And as a result, people find you, they join your list, and you run launches and promotions and stuff to the list. That's the number one model taught online. And the problem with it is it forces you to be a world-class marketer. And most people actually don't want to be. Even if they are, they've got there because they just wanted to get to another endpoint. They just have had to become that along the way. That's me. I didn't really care about being an online marketer, but after 11 years and experimenting with a bunch of stuff, mainly focused on building an audience, I've become a pretty good marketer. It forces you almost always to get on the content hamster wheel of death. Like you have to publish content, podcasts, YouTube, blog posts, emails, whatever your thing is, sometimes all of those things. Like if you stop, you're dead. Like Instagram influencers, and it's like, man, y'all's life sucks, dude. Like, I mean, maybe some of y'all want to do that. I've actually never met the person who like several years in is like, yeah, I want to dedicate the rest of my life to constantly producing reels. It's like, that sounds terrible. Like Dave Ramsey's had the same radio show for 3 hours a day for 30 years. Like I would rather go jump off a bridge, like zero interest in that. Like I love that he's done that, but like, I know I can't do that. Building an audience forces you to be a great marketer, forces you to produce content nonstop. And some channels are better. You don't have to produce a ton, but still, you have to publish that article. It ranks number one. What happens if you ignore it for 2 years? It drops and you have to get better. So like, there is no passive, like none of this is passive, guys. None of it. You must make, some of them are lower maintenance, some of them are higher maintenance, but all of it requires ongoing effort if you want it to work. That's build an audience. It's all that stuff. The other model, which I think is perfectly positioned with high ticket coaching, but you can use it with anything, is instead of building audiences, borrow them instead. So I found this out accidentally. So in the early days of my company, I had grown my email list because that's what everybody said to do. And we have an email list, by the way. We talk to our list, we send emails and promotions, all that stuff. So I'm not anti-list. But the much simpler approach to focus on is not how big is my list, how can we get more subscribers, how can we run launches. It is to focus on borrowing audiences instead. So when I first started out, I had grown my email list to 100 people, and I was in this Facebook group, and I was just kind of sharing what I was doing while I was doing it. And the Facebook group owner reached out and was like, hey, I just noticed you got to 100 subscribers. Could you come and make a resource, and I want to share it with my list so they can learn how to grow their list, because that was a topic they were interested in. I was like, yes. Now this guy has a list of 50,000 people. He had a blog for a decade. So the trust he had and the relationship we had with his audience was huge. I had 100 people, most of which were my like friends and family and cousins and stuff. So like zero. But I had something that he wanted, which was a method to do a thing, to solve a problem. So I came in, made that resource. He promotes it to his audience of 50,000 people. I picked up 1,000 email subscribers from it and over $100,000 in sales. And that was one of the like 2 or 3 big hockey stick moments in 11 years. We're like, ooh, that was a thing. It wasn't just like a little bit of a bump. It was like the exponential, gigantic increase in things. That first launch, that webinar thing we did this summer, and that moment with Noah, where he took a resource I had and promoted it to his list. Like, I didn't have to go find those 50,000 people. I didn't have to build trust with those 50,000 people. I didn't have to rank a thing and manipulate an algorithm to get in front of those 50,000 people. He had the 50,000 people, and he said, hey, 50,000 people, go check out Bryan. I trust him. Download this resource. And they did. It's like, that is really hard to screw up. So we've just intentionally put together a system to do that over and over and over and over and over again. It's like, how can we get more Noahs to promote us to their list? And like that borrowing.
How do you, can I just ask, how do you pitch those people then? Because you said he came to you and asked you to do that.
Right. Yeah. So the primary mechanism we use, and we do 3 of these a week, like currently. I'm doing 2 tomorrow and another one the next day. So like this is our number 1 marketing channel. We just borrow other people's audiences. That's our marketing strategy. A cool side effect of it is your audience actually grows. So our email list grows as a result of that. So how we ask them, we have a very particular pitch framework for it. And I'll put, so growthtools.com/authority. I'll put a link to the pitch template we use and 3 examples of it. So y'all can just see what I'm about to describe with your own eyes and kind of play around with it. So we use a formula called Anchor Win Ask, but the main approach is, think about this. I'll use an example and we'll go to a specific kind of framework. So in the late 2000s, nobody knew who Phil McGraw was, but everybody knew who Oprah was. Oprah was basically the Joe Rogan of the 90s. Biggest, most popular human on the planet as far as like talk showy stuff. She's Joe Rogan of then, gigantic show, millions of people watch every day. But Oprah is not married and doesn't have kids, but her audience wanted advice on parenting and marriage. So Oprah went out and found a guy who is a really good but totally unknown marriage and family therapist called Phil McGraw, or Dr. Phil. She has him on her show, interviews him one time. People love the guy. So then he comes on every Tuesday for years and years and years. And Phil McGraw goes from a total unknown to now one of the longest running daytime TV shows in history. And he got to start by Oprah, giant audience, promoting Dr. Phil's content. So most people think you have to pay for this kind of thing. In fact, we found that to be like way more complicated to try to like pay people to promote your stuff. Like you can, but that's affiliate marketing. You can get into that, but way more complex. And there's way less people that will do it, by the way. But one of the cool results of this whole creator economy boom is that all of these podcasts and YouTube shows and newsletters need content. There's a whole bunch of mini Oprahs out there that have a list of 1,000 people that really trust them, or a list of 10,000 people that really trust them, or a podcast with 100,000 listeners that really trust them. And all of those people need one thing. They're on the content hamster wheel of death, all of them. And they all need good content. So just like Noah, he needed good content for his list and either could create it or find it. So you just take the thing you know, marriage or parenting or marketing or SEO or whatever, and take that resource on tour like all these authors do with their book, except you're not going to charge anything for it. And you're going to reach out to people and it's like, hey, I noticed that you talk about, well, for me, let's use me as an example. Hey, Bryan, like you're pitching me. Hey, Bryan, I noticed that you talk about, offers and high ticket and borrowing other people's audiences and everything. And you have a lot of creators on your list. Like one thing that's a big problem for a lot of those people is potentially getting sued by the FTC for the type of case studies they use. And that's a big problem. I know you don't address that because that's your expertise. I have like a 1-page guide on how not to get sued by the FTC and get shut down and hate your life as a result of it. I would love if you would promote it to your list, and I would love to take your material and promote it to my list because my people don't know how to market anything. Would you be up for that? Yeah, please. So we call that a resource swap. I take one of my best resources, I take one of their best resources, and we promote it to each other's list. That's a way to do that is brain dead simple, super hard to screw up, and the number, like our yes rate. So we track every month, and we have a lot of clients. Last month we had several thousand pitches sent out. The yes rate was over 50%, meaning when you reach out with that approach, the number of people that say yes is over 50% of the pitches you send out get a yes response. So that's our basic approach to doing that. And there's a whole pitch template. You can go to growthtools.com/authority and grab and see examples of that, but that's the approach.
You'd also mentioned you had a webinar strategy that was working really well. Is it in a similar sort of way?
Yeah, the pitch would be the same. The actual webinar structure, which is kind of interesting. I've not really talked about this much at all, but I had an aha. For years, I really sucked at webinars. It was like the one marketing thing that I just never really could nail. Like I would do media. I'd sell stuff on webinars, but like the conversion rates were just fine. They were B-, C+. But then this summer, through a series of events that are, we can go into if you want to, but found our way to, really this is the whole sales process, but it's acutely more definable in a webinar because it's a fairly short cycle. You can see it from start to finish in a short time period. I started thinking of the sales process as primarily the thing I wanted a prospect to do is to adopt a particular belief, whereby adopting it, it would be almost impossible for them not to hire me. So what I'd done on webinars primarily, but also probably everywhere, was teach a lot of how-to material, which is fine, but that doesn't move the needle in sales. It gets people in their logical brain, it gets them to do it themselves. But people that try to do a thing themselves, that aren't convicted that method is the way to get there, and now is the time to do it, will quit. That's why success rates in courses are so low. Because most people aren't convicted to do it. It was a shiny object I decided to get, but I got 3 steps into it and it got a little hard and I ejected out. Mm-hmm. So thinking through the process of before any how-to material will actually get you success, you must endure through the hard parts of the how-to material. But you won't endure through a thing you're not convicted of completely and utterly. You won't. So in webinar, what's the conviction I need someone to adopt in order to make it almost impossible to fail at them hiring me? So for example, in our high ticket, we have a couple webinars, but one of them is our high ticket webinar. The belief that I propose on there, the path that I invite people to follow is, hey, Descension model versus Ascension model. So even thinking about conceptually the webinar, like all I'm trying to do on the webinar is present 2 models. Like, hey, here's a path. And both of these are fine. Like neither one of them leads to death. And neither one of them is going to like put you out of business. But I'm going to make a case on this one. Because most of y'all have only, including me, had only ever heard of this one. So the webinar is simply like, here's 2 models to approach business with. And here's some truths about the model I've chosen. And at the end, hey man, you pick the one you want, but I'm going to invite you into this one. And if you're interested in that, like let's talk. And man, I don't teach a single piece of how to do anything. It's simply making a case for, here's one model, here's a model, here's some true and key things if you're going to go down this path on what this looks like. And most of those are kind of objection busters. Like for example, if you propose the high ticket model and I describe it, the first thing people think of is I can barely sell low ticket. How in the world am I going to sell high ticket? If I can sell a $20 thing, how in the world am I going to sell a $10,000 thing? I suck at sales. I'm like, yeah, that's great. So we have an objection for that, objection buster for that. It's like, hey man, it's not about being good at sales. It's actually about finding highly motivated people. Because when you find highly motivated people, you just move out of the way. So if it's hard to sell a $20 thing, it won't become less hard to sell the $10,000 thing because you have to change the underlying thing that's actually causing you the pain at the $20, which is you're selling to a bunch of people that don't actually care all that much. You got to find the people who actually care. You got to find the people who are convicted because, hey, if you break your arm, the pain level is so high, you'll take morphine. You'll go grab the painkillers and take it. But like the 4 seconds before your arm broke, you didn't care all that much. You're highly motivated to solve that pain. So you got to find like if you're sharing marriage counseling, find the people in crisis. The person with the okay marriage, like, yeah, it could be better. That's fine. We have fights and stuff, but that's fine. Find the person who has just talked to a lawyer about divorce. That's the person motivated right this second. You can sell to that person now. Back here, way harder. So anyway, in the webinar, we just walk through 3 or 4 things that pop in people's head when they think about, high ticket, that's interesting, but And we just talk through those things. Like, yeah, I get that. And here's the thing you have to think. So it's belief adoption, not teaching how to do anything, because the teaching fundamentally doesn't work until you actually adopt the belief. Then once you adopt the belief, you don't even need us exactly. Like once you adopt it, you will stop at nothing to do the thing. But if you're not convicted, it'll get hard and you'll bail out. So conviction adoption.
When you're trying to find partners to do this with, so other people's audiences to borrow, do you have that in the back of your mind? Like where are those people in person X's audience along that kind of journey?
Not really. Because like we did a partner webinar 2 weeks ago with a lady who talks about low ticket. She taught low ticket to our list. We taught high ticket to her list. And I'm like, bring them all. Because the deal is with me, like nobody's ever even heard of this. They've never heard a compelling case why you would even want to pick that route. They've never heard it. So I'm just like, I'll spread that good news wide and far to anybody that wants to have me. Let's just talk about it. Because you can apply it to like any business, any industry, nonprofit, for-profit, everything in between. So I'll show up and talk about it anywhere. I don't care. I'm like Paul. I'll be a Rome to the Romans. I'll go anywhere you want, talk to anybody you want. Like, let's go. Because the people that are pulled into it, the people that are convicted by it will go forward. And the people that aren't, that's good for them too, because they're now clear on the path they need to go down. Mm-hmm. So as long as you're like for me, I mean, we work with businesses. So if you're not in business context of some sort, it wouldn't make sense. But otherwise, like they don't have to talk about coaching. They could be selling courses or information or software. It doesn't matter. Because I think we have a compelling case for why working with individuals in a coaching setting, even if it's not your main product, and using the BOPA, Borrow Other People's Marketing channel, just makes sense and is great for a lot of people. And most people have never heard it before. So it's just like usually just an aha epiphany moment for a lot of people, even if they don't work on it now. So I'll go anywhere. I don't care.
And are you trying to close them direct on that webinar, or do they book a call and you have a sales team, or what does the kind of close point look like?
Yeah, the call to action is so we give them at the very end. And once I get finished with, usually there's 3 or 4 keys to doing the thing. And I'm like, hey, so the workshop's not over. The next step is if you are compelled by doing high ticket or borrowing other people's audiences, if you're compelled by that and you're like leaning in, you're interested, I got 3 steps for you, a 3-step action guide. And then I give them 3 steps, one of which is schedule the call to talk with one of us on this webinar so we can talk about your unique situation. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to learn about your business, learn about what products you sell and what your goals are. And we're going to start crafting a marketing plan to take it from where you're at to where you're going to go. And if it makes sense, we'll talk to you about our coaching and you can hire us if you want. And I tell them like, hey, 1% of you will hire us. And literally that math is practically perfect every time, surprisingly so. Because 10% of people typically book calls and 10% of book calls close in deals. Like that just happens every time. I was telling them like most of y'all it doesn't make sense. So that's fine, but you'll have got coaching from us. So we give away a tool or 2 and then we CTA to a call. And typically 10% of registrants schedule calls and 10% of calls booking closes and booking new clients.
And you have a team doing those calls, or that's you doing those calls?
Yeah, we have a couple of salespeople.
Okay. A lot of people, I think, especially coming from an SEO background, the idea of getting on a sales call with someone like terrifies many people. Right. How would you suggest someone who's maybe a bit apprehensive about that side of things gets over that fear?
I'll include at that growthtools.com/authorityhacker my 5-question script. I'm writing it down so I don't forget. And you can think about a sales call. Just delete the phrase sales call, select all, delete it out of your database, and think about it like a coaching call. Because literally there's 5 questions that are just simply coaching questions. I don't know if I can remember them off the top of my head, so I'll put the script there so you can get them. But the first couple are just like, hey, what's your goal? Like zoom forward a year, where do you want to be? And literally the first half of your call is just trying to understand where do you want to go. So, if we're doing the marriage coaching example, I might get on the call. I was like, hey, so tell me about where you want to be in a year in your marriage. Like wave your magic wand, what happens a year from now? Just describe it to me. And the second thing is like, why now? Why is now the time that you actually want to change? You've been married for 10 years, so why not 8 years ago? Why not 3 years from now? Why now is the time you want to do that? What you're doing with those 2 questions are first, getting them clear on where they want to go. And second, helping them get clear on urgency of why now. Like what's the pain that exists in their life if they don't solve this problem now? Divorce and kids and money, blah, 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 all the things that will happen bad in your marriage if you don't solve it. The third thing is what's been blocking you? Like what has been the pain? So these first 3 questions are just diagnostic. Where do you want to go? Why now? What's blocking you? That's like 3/4 of the call is just hearing them out, being a good human that has been maybe one of the first people to hold space for them and ask inquisitive questions to understand what's even happening for them, because they haven't done that for themselves yet. And we get people on sales calls all the time, and it's more of a coaching call. It's just understanding like where you want to go, what's up, what's the thing, tell me more about that, tell me about the blocker, tell me why now, why not then, why not later, like what's the thing, and they're just getting clear in their thinking. And then after that, there's 2 questions to like, hey, I think I can help you with that. Can I describe how we potentially could help you hit that goal, overcome those blockers, and accomplish that fairly quickly? Yeah. And then we talk about the product a little bit. And the last one is, do you want us to help you? So like, it's a very just consultative coaching. Like if you have a heart to coach, if you don't have a heart to coach, don't coach, by the way. Like, don't do that. But if you're like, I love working with people. I don't know how that would be to work with 20 people. That seems overwhelming. But like 3 people, well, let's go. Well, great, do it. And as you get into it, you'll see how you can do more of it. It's just 5 questions. That's the whole call.
I guess it doesn't feel like a kind of high pressure sales call.
Not at all.
It's more, nicer.
And most people think sales has to be some super salesy thing, and it just doesn't. Like, it's just talk to humans. Like, optimize for deep personal connection with that person and actually helping them. Don't optimize for closing them. Optimize for helping them. Because what that'll do between question 3 and 4 in our script is the salesperson, the person on the call, needs to make an evaluation at that moment. You're now 30 minutes in. Can you actually help that person or not? And if based on everything you've learned, their goals, their blockers, and their reason for now, if you can't, you're like, hey man, I totally get that. I got some resources for you. I hope you do well with it, and let them go. If you can, just practically, if you got a guy on the street who's just been shot and is bleeding out, and you are an EMT and you walk by that person and don't help them, you are legitimately a bad human. Right?
Right.
So you literally, they're bleeding out over there. You have the solution. You're not even going to walk over there and help them. Like, you should go do that. So same thing with you. If you walk by a person who has this bleeding out of their eyeballs problem and you have the solution, you're not even going to talk to them about it. Like, why? Because you're scared? I get that. Also, get over it. Like, just ask them, can I help you? Yeah, would you be interested if I told you about how I think I could help you? Like, that's a totally cool question. You can ask that to anybody in any context. And if they're like, no, that's good. I'm like, okay, cool. I get that. Is there anything else I can help you with? Nope. Okay, bye. Cool. Call over. And if they've said, like, it's the open the door moment. If they've said, like, yeah, I would love to hear how you could potentially help me. It's like, great. So here's how I kind of walked a couple people through it before. Step 1, we make a plan. And step 2, we do this. And step 3, we give you training. And step 3, we coach you through it. And here's kind of the parts of how it would work. Is that something to be interested in? It's like, yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. Then you give them your pricing and walk them through it. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be weird. If it's weird, like, you're probably doing something strange. So if you just stick to those 5 questions, like, you're good to go. So the exceptions to those are just super introverted weirdos who don't like hanging out with any human at all. In which case, like, you should not be coaching. And you're going to have a really hard time doing client work, by the way, because guess what? You have to interact with humans. And we're just not wired for that. That's a bug, not a feature. So humans are wired to interact with other humans. And if the better you can just ask those questions, those are fun just to practice on in social settings, by the way. It's like, hey, what's your big problem right now? Interesting. Tell me more about that. Where would you want it to be? Oh, dang. Yeah. Why are you interested in solving that now? Like, oh, dang, what are your, like, literally just learn about humans by focusing on them and their problems and understanding them completely. You can just do this anywhere. And it's kind of a fun way to have conversations where you can actually go deep with somebody.
You've talked about making it impossible for your clients to fail.
Yep.
Coming from the sort of course industry, we're used to offering 30-day money-back guarantees or something like that. How do you go about delivering your coaching service in a way that makes it impossible to fail?
So our measurement of almost impossible to fail is 90% of clients hit their revenue goal every month. So we try to put a number to it. We don't want it to be some ethereal thing. We measure that regularly. And we're not to 90% yet because we have to have scale and high success to actually have said, all right, we've solved that problem. How we do it, we have 4 different main deliverables. So like when you hire us, there's 4 things when you open the box that you get. So these are the main delivery mechanisms. First is a plan. If you're trying to go from Tampa, Florida to Eugene, Oregon, you got to have directions. And some people start in Nebraska, some people start in New York, some people start in Montana. So like they're all going to the same spot, but the way to get there is a little different for each person. So the first thing we do when somebody hires us is do a deep dive into their business, understand where they're at, and we make a thing called their revenue roadmap with them. And the revenue roadmap consists of like the 5 fundamentals: your offer, your avatar, your funnel, the resource you're going to take on tour and get people to promote, and then your actual marketing plan itself. So that's like the equivalent of punching into Google Maps, like I want to go here, I'm evacuating Florida from the hurricane, let me get out of the safe zone and turn here, take this car, here's your gas, go. So that's the first thing, is the plan. Second thing is we have to train them. There's just things they got to know that they don't know right now. So if you get married day one, you know nothing about marriage. It'd be great if the 3 wisest people in your life set you down and taught you about marriage. That would help you a lot and save you so much pain. And it never happens. So you got to figure out the hard stuff yourself and fall in every freaking pit and learn all the same lessons over and over again. It'd be great if your dad and your uncle and your granddad set you down and was like, all right, dude, here's the deal. Here's the deal about sex. Here's the deal about money. Here's the deal about communication. And here's the deal when they're crazy. Here's the stuff. I'm just going to tell you what happened. Here's the thing. And you can ignore it, figure it out your own way, do what you want. So we get the information from our head to their head. We got to train them. So that's pillar number 2. Pillar number 3 is coaching. And what coaching really is the application of that training to their situation, which is where most people get stuck in, like one of the big failure points of asynchronous, like DIY products. Okay, I watched the video on AI, but then I'm trying to do it. And I'm like, I'm hitting these 7 roadblocks. How do I do it? So I've heard Bryan talk about, how to pitch somebody and 50% success rates and taking a resource and swapping it. But like, all right, but what do I write in this? I think I've written an email based on that template, but like, is this right? Because I'm not getting any yeses. It's like, that's what your coach helps with. They zoom in and they look at every asset you make. They make sure you just don't do the dumb stuff and that you stay on the path. So we do that with one-on-one interaction. We have live calls, stuff there. The second part of that is peer coaching. So what we found is, this is actually a bit surprising from walking on the coach path for a while. Just a one-on-one coach is not enough. It's kind of like single parenting, which God bless every single parent. That's the hardest job that exists on the planet. Single mom with 3 kids, like, you have actually the hardest job that exists. Is not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to raise kids in community. It's supposed to be in community. So doing it by yourself, extremely difficult. One-on-one coaching is similar. I'm not trying to compare us to single parents, but like, you have all the weight on one person. And the reality is, at times, that relationship will wane. And there'll be times where they pay attention to you, times where they don't, times where they're pulled off the path. So what we found is you need peer coaching as well. You need their peers. What I could try to teach my son Huck how to stop sucking his thumb. He's 9 freaking years old and won't stop doing it. What he needs now is kids on the bus to make fun of him. That's what he needs. I've done every trick that exists and bought every course and listened to every video. We've done all the things. The habit has not broken. He needs peers, man. He needs that. Like you get a kid to 18 years old, or the kids hit teenage years, and like they stop paying attention to the parent all that much. You need a good community. You need grandparents. You need church friends. You need people on the bus. You need kids in community that are like good humans that will make sure they don't totally detach from reality and go off the crazy train. Same thing with coaching. You need a community. So in our coaching bucket, we have peer support and professional support. And the last step is, this is actually a little innovative. I say innovative, it makes it sound bigger than it is, but a thing we found in product development that we've applied to coaching that could apply anywhere. The fourth one is, we found the number one bottleneck in what we coach, and we did it for them. So we have one minor done-for-you element that fixes the number one bottleneck people have. So for us, in our marketing system, it is sending pitches. So like the heartbeat of our other people's audiences is sending pitches every day. 2 a day. It's the equivalent of your ad spend. It's the equivalent of tracking your rankings and writing or whatever optimizing stuff you do in SEO. It's the equivalent of that. There's a heartbeat to every channel that exists. The goal is find the heartbeat and make sure you do it. If you do it, you'll live. If you don't, you'll die. So for us, that is pitching every day. So we do that part for them. We find partners via a database that we have and cold outreach or cold research, and then we draft the pitches and hand them to them. So all you do is press send. So the fourth pillar is that. So those are the 4 things we do to make it almost impossible. Then we just measure it. We measure every client every month. And when we're short of the goal, we go to troubleshooting mode. Okay, why did that person fail? Where did they get stuck? Could we do it for them? Could we make it simpler? Could we just remove the step? How do we make it easier to do that thing?
And how are you delivering this on the back end? Like, do you have a kind of community platform where you're interacting with people? Is it all done by email, or what's the tech stack look like?
Yeah, that's evolved a good bit over the years. So one note on this before I share what we do, because what we do is not the magic. What I find a lot of coaches doing is they put together their program, whether it's one-on-one or kind of scaled or groupie or whatever the dynamics are, and they try to put things in it that will sell. They're like, well, if I did one-on-one calls, we'd sell more. We could charge more. If I did one-on-one email, we could sell more. We could charge more. If I did more of this or that or whatever, we could charge more. None of that's true. We've sold group fulfillment, one-on-one fulfillment, email, calls once a week, everything in between. The price point is moved 0% based on that. So first rule of your delivery is do the thing that sounds fun and light to you. That's the first step. What you put in the program, the exact delivery mechanisms will not affect your price point. It's the number one mistake I see people making in putting coaching programs together. If I did this, we could charge. No, that's not true. What that does is make you more confident, and then you charge more. So the key is your confidence in selling your product, not what's in the product as far as delivery mechanisms. So I'll put a little cheat sheet, a little one-page PDF thing. We call it like the coaching grab bag. You literally just pull out of it and pick the things that feel good to you and go do that. And then measure it and iterate on it. So you don't do dumb stuff that doesn't work. So for us, we make the plan with them. So that's a asynchronous process or synchronous process. So we work it with them to create their roadmap. The coaching mechanism or the training mechanism, we teach live, but we also have recordings. We do that. You don't have to. We get plenty of clients that just do it. They record the thing and do it. Or they take their first 5 clients, record those Zoom calls, and then put that in the recording database. That's an easy way to do it if you're just getting started. You don't have to make anything for coaching. Just like the first client you get, make a plan for them. The next time, do the trainings live. The next time you get them recorded. And the third bag, so think about PTA as an acronym for your deliverables, the plan, the training, and the advisement. How are you going to do the advising? So there's usually 2 components of the coaching advising piece. There is synchronous advising, like when you're on a call of some sort with them. And then there's asynchronous. When you're not on a call, how do you communicate? So you can do this however you want, by the way. You can have an office hours type synchronous delivery mechanism where you can have any client that wants to come on office hours a couple times a week. That's cool. You can have one-on-one calls with everybody. That's cool too. Those actually have more downside than upside, by the way. And then the asynchronous piece, you can do that via email. You can do it via like a community mechanism where people post questions and you answer. We have found the community mechanism to be better than one-on-one email because we can have all of our coaches there. So when someone posts a question for us, for their coach, the coach answers within an hour or 2, but also usually 2 or 3 other coaches chime in and 2 or 3 clients chime in. So instead of sending an email, same message you asked, send it via email, you get one person to respond in like half a day or a day. Now you get a faster response time, a more well-rounded answer, and you get peers and professionals answering it. It's just a better answer. And for us, it's easier to do.
It's essentially a community you're sort of building in a way.
Yeah, in a way. So you need synchronous, you need asynchronous coaching support. You can pick, just literally do whatever you want. I don't really do it all via email and all via one-on-one calls to begin with. That's the simplest thing to do. For your training, you need to do it live or recorded. Pick one. At the beginning, it's going to be live because you don't have recordings. And then you need to plan. And that can entail of do an hour-long onboarding call with them, and then take what they said, use ChatGPT to help you, and put a plan together. Like, all right, so here's your steps you're going to follow. Does that make sense? Yep, cool. Now let's jump into training. Now, as you go through training, you need coaching right beside you to make sure you don't do dumb stuff. We're going to review your main assets, like if you're doing financial coaching. We're going to review your budget. We're going to do an expense review every week. We're going to check your 3 problem categories to make sure you don't overspend in them. And I'm just going to spend 5 minutes each week. You're going to send me a picture of your budget status. I'm going to do a quick review for you. That's the whole thing. This whole program. So for us, we've evolved and typically as we do evaluation cycles on our success rates, we try to evolve the delivery mechanisms to just be more effective. It's not about optimizing us first and our work hours. It's first about will it work or not? And then how can we make that efficient for us so it's actually practical to do?
If you were starting from zero today, no previous list or audience, completely unknown, and let's take that example we were going with earlier of the marriage or relationship help. Yeah. What would the first year of your business look like following this path?
Oh, yeah. Crystal clear here. I would get my offer articulated on paper, which I'll put a one-page offer template for you, for everybody, so you can see what I mean by this. So first, I just agree in my own mind what I'm going to sell. The high-ticket coaching, be high-ticket coaching with no doubt. So there'd be a plan. There would be training. There would be coaching. That'd be the 3 pieces of it. So when they hire me, put that together. Then I'd have some basic training I would deliver on a Zoom call for the first handful of clients to get it kind of refined a little bit. I would make no slides or anything ahead of time. I'd have basic outline and go teach. After 3 or 4 clients, the curriculum would be resolved or be refined. And then the third piece, I would have them just, when you get stuck, email me or text me and I'll answer your question. For the first 5, 10 people to be that. That would get my offer absolutely dialed in. So first, now I got a thing to sell. Second thing would be to find who I sell it to, who am I focused on explicitly. I'll give a 1-page avatar process for everybody too, because we can go depth on how to do that. But I would pick, since I've never coached someone in marriage, I would just pick the avatar to be me. Because I've never given that transformation to another person, either free or paid. So I would just define myself. And then I would go try to find people like me. to market to. So to do that, so now I have a offer and an avatar. I got a car and fuel. I know what I'm going to drive, and I got fuel for the thing. Now I need to go find people that want it. So then I would focus on doing one resource swap a week. So I'd be pitching 2 people a day on doing a resource swap. Now I can't say, hey, I got a big audience, I'm going to help you grow. Neither did Dr. Phil, by the way. Oprah didn't need an audience growth. Neither did Noah for me. I didn't have an audience to give him. But I would go pitch 2 people a day with, hey, I got this great 3-page cheat sheet on how to turn your crappy marriage into a great marriage if you're an entrepreneur. Because hey, one of the big problems with entrepreneurs are they obsessively focus on their business and they obsessively ignore their family and their kids. And like, hey, your business is great, but how's your marriage? Oh, it sucks? Yeah, great. We can fix that. Apply that same brain you're applying to your business over here, and I got 3 steps to do that, and you can have it transformed in 90 days. And I'd give that cheat sheet away, and I'd focus on, for me, I would focus on those business crowds. Because that's my situation, so I just focus on me. Now, you might be for doctors, or you might be for lawyers, or real estate agents, or whoever you are. I'm just going to define my use case. And then I would just go pitch. I'd make a list, a Dream 100 of 100 audiences, and go write 2 pitches a day and send them to those people. Within 60 days, I would have my pipeline totally full, 1 a week, resource swapping with people. And actually at first it wouldn't be a swap, it'd just be them promoting my thing. But after like a couple months, I would have a list of a couple thousand people. My goal is every swap I close a client. So if my swap gets like 50 downloads, and that's a very small audience to get 50 people to download your resource, then I'm going to close 1 call off that. So I get to 1 client a week within 3 to 4 months. That's 1 client at 10 grand within 3 to 4 months. Within 9 months, I'm at 2 clients a week at 10 grand each. That's just the timeline. 9 to 12 months. That's what I do. No audience needed. No, you don't even have to have a website. You need 1 page for people to book a call. That's the whole thing. You just don't need, I mean, you can have all that stuff. That stuff isn't going to hurt you. It's just typically going to distract you. So I define the offer, define the avatar, pitch twice a day, do 1 resource swap a week. And all that can be up and going pretty well in 90 days.
And then thinking maybe a little bit beyond that into year 2 or 3, as you start to grow that business, what are the areas where you look to kind of replace yourself with by hiring or
that's good.
By
So place number 1 that's the easiest is have someone take that BOPA marketing channel, or again, BOPA stands for Borrow the People's Audiences. Have somebody hire someone to come in and run that. Step number 1. So within 6 to 9 months, that channel will be mature, meaning it's producing $30,000 to $40,000 a month for 3 months in a row. The first thing I do is hire somebody to run that and grow it to $100,000. Revenue producing position, number 1. What I don't want to do is hire a coach first. I'd rather increase my price and keep my client load low and me stay there because that's the hardest to screw up spot. If you screw that up, everything else is screwed up. And bring in a revenue producing person to then take all that training I took and just go do it for me. And go from 2 pitches a day to 6 pitches a day, to go from $20,000 to $100,000 a month. They can do that within another 9 months. The next role would be to have someone come in and do the training and the plans. So we pay somebody $2,000 a month to do all of our trainings, and we teach 4 classes simultaneously every week. It's a significant amount of time that you don't have to pay a significant amount of money for. So once that marketer's got that channel to $50K a month, I then hire a trainer to come in and take all the training off my plate. The next role after that is to hire another coach to come in and sit beside me and answer questions and do asset reviews for people. So those are your first 3 hires. Revenue producing, take the biggest load off your plate, which is training people. And the third piece is hire a coach. And the best people to hire for the training and coach are clients that have been through it. People that have received the transformation themselves. And those are fantastic because they already know it. They're already, and people, the best people to hire, and really the only people you want to hire, are people convicted of that solution because they've experienced the result. So people that have received the transformation that you have to give, send them out. Because many of them will want to be your ambassadors. So just go hire them. The first one's easy. Take your best client and say, hey, for $2,000, could you just do all my training for me? And if you're teaching, we have a fairly complex thing we teach that it's evolved in complexity over time. Most people just need 1 class. Just like $500, $750 a month, and they just teach all your stuff. And that's once you're making $50,000 a month. That's a very easy trade to make. So you can have it within a year or 2, where if you don't want to be doing any frontline coaching, training, or marketing, you don't have to. Very reasonable. Almost anybody can do that that's convicted they want to be a coach. Now, if you don't convicted you want to be a coach, you don't want to grow a business out of that, that'll never work for you. But if you are, you can take Grandma Tracy, who doesn't know how to operate a printer, and she can do that. Because there's just not a lot of things to screw up. There's just not a lot of moving parts. It's really hard to screw up authority hacker emailing out a resource to their list of 100,000 people and them telling, go download it, this is a really great thing, and not get 50 sales calls out of it. Like that's really hard to screw up. There's just not a lot of things to screw up. It's like, did your landing page work? And was your call booking calendar available? And even the call itself, once you kind of know the basic methodology, which we teach, it's just like, ask these 5 questions. That's the whole thing. Well, I talked to 50 people, nobody bought. Did you ask the 5 questions? No. Okay, well, ask the 5 questions. Like that's like the entire thing. So yeah, that's why I'm here. The impact is high and it's hard to screw up. So my first year or two would be that.
As a course creator myself, then, would you recommend someone in my position starts looking to add on this coaching as another part of the business? How do you go from here to there?
It would depend on, this goes to owner intent. Like, what do you want? Just what do you want to do? If you are obsessed with, hey, our mission is to have 100,000 people have great marriages. Go back to the marriage example. It's like, well, you get 2 options. Sell 10 million of your thing, book or course, and you'll get there. Or sell like 1/10 of that or maybe 1/20th of that with the coaching program and you could get there. So you could go the impact and just what's your impact? You go to like, we want to add more revenue to the business. Well, we could like 10x our traffic and we could get 10x the revenue. Or we could just take our existing traffic and existing list and add this product to it that's also going to add tons of revenue. I bet y'all could triple your business, would be my guess. I haven't looked at your numbers and everything to untangle that. I bet you could triple your business with a high ticket offer. And in the process of that, you would 10x your impact because the transformation people would get from that product would be exponentially higher than the course itself. But like, should you do that? I don't know. There's a whole bunch of questions I'd have to ask you to decide that. Like you might be in super passive mode, not want to pour into the business. If so, you should not touch a new product. But you might be in like lean in mode of like, yeah, I'm convicted, fully in. I want to triple revenue. Here's the reason why. All this stuff. Like when I work with established businesses, I dig into their why and their what and their how before we do any practical stuff at all. Go deep there because too many times I've shortcutted that. We've started a big new initiative to install like a product like this or a new marketing channel. And turns out like they didn't really, I worked with these 2 guys who were pilots and they make a ton of money as pilots. And I didn't go deep enough into the foundational whys behind what they were doing. So we got 6 months in and they just disappeared completely. These are people that paid a lot of money. This is not our base product. They paid for the in-person thing with me one-on-one. Turns out like they just didn't really want to do it. Like they had a sweet gig and like they weren't in go crush it mode. They just weren't. I didn't dig enough. If I'd have dug enough, I would have told them not to hire me. I would have rather that happen than 6 months in and all that work and they never get the transformation. So I would dig there first to dig down and see. But if you're going for just throw all that stuff away and assume all that stuff is right, which is a gigantic assumption because for most big businesses it is not, then high ticket would allow you to have more impact and make substantially more from the people you already have. But there's prices to pay and costs to count before you do it. So you'd want to make sure you're all in on that and that you are convicted. This is what we need to do. Because I'll say this out loud. This has been a lot of talking about my 2 convictions of BOPA and high ticket. This is not for everybody. Like this path is not the right path. It is the right path for people if you want certain things. And it is a simpler path actually if you're starting than anything I found actually. I've yet to found a simpler path.
Certainly seems like that from day 0 to making, a comfortable income, compared to a course business or anything else where you got to build an audience.
Anything.
What you're talking about is a much shorter distance to get across.
Yeah. So for you, those would be the directions I would ask. Like if it's revenue production, like 10x traffic or add this is going to be easier. If it is impact, I mean, for sure, you can have more impact over here, customer for customer, hour for hour, invested in it. Does that mean you should do it? No, that doesn't mean you should do it. There's other questions to ask there to dig down into, but that would happen. I've actually talked to very well-known entrepreneurs in the last year out of starting coaching. We shut down one coaching part of their business, and the other one was days away from launching it, and we killed it before they started because they weren't in. They weren't all in, and it was going to be a hot mess of a disaster. One of them was already a hot mess of disaster. The other one was going to be a total train wreck. So they'll probably both come back to it. It just wasn't the time. And I'm like, as all in on coaching as you could possibly get. And it was like, pull the ripcord, get out of this thing. So maybe at some point they'll come back to it. I don't know. But like the internal infrastructure, owner intent, all that stuff has to be wired up right. Or for an existing established business, it'll be a giant distraction and a giant waste of time. Yeah.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that you think I should have asked you?
There's a part of, I don't know what this is in question form, so I'll just talk about the topic for a minute. This will sound weird, so I'll talk to this in exaggerations a little bit. People can interpret it for themselves. Then there's a misnomer that we get to pick what we do. I think we do. You can do whatever you want. You can pick your product, your market, and all that stuff. Like, product market fit is talked about a lot. And it's real. If you try to sell the product to a market that doesn't want it, you will not win. But more important than that is founder product fit. Like, what are you supposed to be doing? And that is not an infinite list. It's not even a long list. I would spend more time for anybody at any stage sitting with the question, praying if you're a praying person, meditating if you're a meditating person, or just taking a walk over a series of a couple weeks and just sit on the question, what problem am I supposed to be solving? And how am I supposed to be solving it? I would sit with that a lot. And I have sat with that a lot. And as I have, man, it's you know what it's really done is taken lots of things off the table. And as less things get on the table, the focus and the breakthroughs and the obviousness of the path I'm supposed to be on gets clear. And friends do different things and other people do different things and they work, and that's awesome for all of them. And I know for sure that's not what I should be doing. And man, that is so liberating. It so crushes imposter syndrome and FOMO and all that stuff that is all just giant distractions designed to get you off the path. So I think your purpose, like, what am I supposed to be doing? And there is a supposed to. If you want to trial that, go do stuff you're not supposed to be doing and see what happens. Nothing. You'll be super frustrated. You'll bang your head against the wall for a long time. But when you find that vein of what you are specifically designed to do, man,
just sort of
energy,
clicks, right?
Conviction, you can't even explain it. Like, a different thing happens there. So I don't know. I would think about the purpose thing, no matter what stage you're at, beginning, advanced, doesn't matter. And I tell you, the number of people that have actually dialed into that in the business world of the people we all follow is very small. There's a whole lot of people seeing what other people are doing and doing their version of that. And like, that's fine, whatever. Who cares? Really, who cares? There's so many 10, 20, $30 million businesses I've looked at. And I'm like, like, you're not uniquely trying to solve any problem. Like, you're making money. That's awesome. Great for you. Who cares? Like, literally, who cares? Like, go add value, really. And measure that on impact and results gained, not dollars collected. The dollars collected will follow that exponentially if you actually do that. So I don't know. The purpose thing, I think, is actually a sneaky big deal that I'm just starting to realize. Like, in the last 6 months, realizing I'm like, that's a big deal. And as I have been guided to sit in that spot more, the funness and the lightness, despite the storm you're in. Because, like, man, you're going to get hit with so much stuff. It is going to be hard. There are hard times, boy. Ooh, boy. Right now is the hardest time in online business since I've been in business in 12 years, like, for sure. The number of texts I get
been a
every
rough
week
year,
from
yeah.
people that are like, bro, we're in trouble, is a lot right now. A lot. And, man, like, I think I've mentioned the Bible a lot. I'll just mention one more time. And this isn't meant to be religious, just examples. When people talk about stoicism, all this stuff, so I just go to the Bible because I think it's the best piece of literature ever created. But there's a story, and we all know it because Michelangelo painted I think it's Michelangelo painted the Jesus in the storm, calm in the storm thing. So there's a particular, I forget which gospel says this, but there's a particular narrative. Somebody fact check me on this. I'm pretty sure it's right. Where Jesus, before the storm, he knows the storm's coming. So he goes and grabs a cushion and lays on the cushion, knowing the hurricane storm thing is coming. He's like, all right, I know it's coming. I want to nap though. So I'm just going to get my cushion so my head's not banging against the seat. Like, the storm is coming. The storm's here for many people right now. And the storm hasn't come since like 2008. But the Cat 5 hurricane's in entrepreneur online land right now. And look up in a year or two, there'll be a lot of people that are gone. And purpose, knowing you are where you're supposed to be. Contentment, you know where you're supposed to be right here, right now, and not right here, is a big component of being in the storm and actually making it through. Because, like, you're not going to avoid it. You're going to get hit. There's going to be challenging things. It's going to be hard. There'll be days you just want to quit and throw in the towel. But knowing you are where you're supposed to be is the difference of being peaceful in the storm and not being peaceful in the storm. It's the difference of quitting when it gets so hard. It isn't that you're on the edge of the cliff. You're free falling off the edge of the cliff. Do you pull the ripcord then, or do you just, like, trust it's going to work out? Man, knowing you are where you're supposed to be is the difference. It has been the difference in that moment for me. And I've been in that moment multiple times in 12 years. I'm like, I have no idea how this is going to work. I'm like, Jesus, take the wheel for real. So yeah, I would sit with the purpose thing. Sit with that. Like Moses,
Yeah.
he's wandering through the wilderness for 40 years. Like that's a long freaking time to wander through a wilderness. And sometimes, man, you sit there and you're wandering through the thing, and cash ain't making sense, and payroll, I don't know how that's going to work, and the launch fell, and all the stuff. And what do you do then? Because that's going to be the definition of what happens with you. Do I eject it? And man, if your whole business is built on the sand of, let me just model what Brian's doing, you're screwed. You're so screwed. But if it's modeled on, I know I'm supposed to be right here and I'm fully convicted this is the exact path I'm to be on, you're actually good. You're anchored in the hurricane. You ain't going nowhere. It might be hard. You might lose some hair in the process, but like you'll be fine. You'll be good. And you'll make it on the other side. And the other side is awesome when you get through the storm. Like that's fantastic. So I would just encourage everybody, one, sit with your purpose a little bit. That'll let you be content when it's hard. And two, know the storm is coming. And that's totally normal. Every entrepreneur ever in all of history has been there many times. And it's okay. Reach out to somebody. Have a friend around it. Have a community around it. Have a coach around it. Have somebody there with you in the process.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think sometimes in business, everyone's focused on numbers and growth, but every entrepreneur comes across these times when you've just got to hold on and make it through the next 6 months and to get out the other end. So yeah. Very interesting there.
Yep.
Bryan, thank you so much for your time today. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way they can get hold of you?
Yeah, go to growthtools.com/authority. You'll enter your email there, and I'll have a copy of my one-page offer, my one-page avatar, our sales script with the 5 questions. What was the other thing I had? Oh, the pitch script with a couple examples of it as well. And I'll put a couple bonuses there as well, like maybe some case studies where you can see high ticket and BOPA kind of in action, so you can kind of see the start to finish what this looks like, little short form versions of it, so you can kind of track it. So just go there. When you go there, you'll have an opportunity to join the email list. We can kind of keep track of us. We host workshops, free training every Friday. So just kind of look out for that. We teach everything I just talked about in lots more detail on those. We do a whole hour and a half on BOPA, hour and a half on high ticket, and several other topics kind of underpinning those. So go to growthtools.com/authority. I'll have some special bonuses for everybody that was listening to this. And then once you're in the hopper, just kind of pay attention to our trainings we do. If you're interested in hiring us, what we do is coaching. We give away all of our stuff for free. 1% of people hire us to coach them. So if you're interested in that after listening to this, when you go to /authority, there'll be information there on how you can get in touch with us. So yeah, thanks for having me on, Mark. This was great.
Thanks, Bryan. And you can find all of those links in the description below this video. Or if you're listening on SoundCloud or on audio, then head on over to authorityhacker.com/podcast and we'll have all the resources there as well. Since that was such a long interview, I wanted to unpack the key takeaways from it. Bryan has built an 8-figure business using an unconventional approach. Instead of creating courses or building an audience, he focuses almost entirely on high-ticket coaching and borrowing other people's audiences. Now, this is smart because it's a way of reducing the time between doing all of the work to create a product or build up a marketing channel and actually getting the result or the reward from that. We often refer to this as reward lag, and if you've been doing SEO before, then you'll be very familiar and possibly very frustrated with this concept. So I like that he offers a way around this essentially. The core of Bryan's strategy is what he calls the Descension model. So here you'll start with a high ticket offer of 5 to 10K instead of low ticket products. His logic here is pretty simple. It's much easier to find 10 clients at 10K than 4,000 buyers at $30. When you run the numbers to actually get 4,000 buyers, if you assume a generous 3% conversion rate, you'd still need an audience of over 130,000. And building that from scratch is difficult. But getting just 10 people to buy something is a much more realistic and quick goal to achieve. Plus, high-ticket clients are more committed and tend to get better results. So rather than spending years building an audience, Bryan focuses it on borrowing other people's audiences through what he calls resource swaps. He'll create valuable content that other people can share with their lists. Think of this like lead magnets you see across someone's site or advertised on social media. They're often free guides, swipe files, mini tools, lists, or some other type of content that's quick to consume, but valuable enough that someone will be willing to give their email to receive it. Now, after the podcast, Bryan emailed us to ask if we wanted to do a resource swap with his list. And it's actually something that we're looking into for next year. The hard part with resource swaps, though, is probably getting someone to share your resources if you're starting from scratch. This is where some of the skills that many SEOs have developed around link building outreach could come in handy, though. If you think about it, guest posting outreach is the same. You're pitching something that primarily benefits you So you have to kind of build that relationship across email to get what you want. Bryan did also share his partnership pitch template though, where he says he gets over 50% success rate, and he actually aims to do 1 successful resource swap per week using this approach. So it's something you can definitely recycle again and again. His sales process is built around 5 key questions. Where do you want to be in a year? Why do you want to do this now? What's been blocking you? Can I share how we can help? And do you want us to help you? Many people, myself included, don't feel natural in a sales type situation. But this is a clever way to achieve results in a more sort of consultative approach. This, I think, helps qualify prospects and creates natural transitions to working together. And to ensure success with his clients, Bryan's coaching program has 4 components: a customized roadmap, training materials, both professional and peer coaching, and done-for-you services around the key bottlenecks. This is quite a comprehensive approach and makes it, in his words, almost impossible to fail. I really like that term. It's very catchy. What I do like about this approach, though, is that whenever he experienced an issue with a client, and you can kind of see that come out through the interview from time to time, he seemed to kind of bake that solution into the product. So it naturally just continually gets better over time, which I really, really like. At the end of the podcast, I also challenged Bryan to talk through what he would do if he was starting from scratch in his first year. And if he was, he said in months 1 to 3, he would spend defining his offer and then starting to pitch people. By months 4 to 6, he should be able to hit 1 client a week at $10,000 each. And in months 7 to 9, he thinks he can scale to 2 clients per week, which, if you do the math, works out at about $1 million a year annual run rate. The big takeaway here is that focusing on high-ticket coaching with borrowed audiences can be a much simpler path to a 7-figure business than trying to build courses or low-ticket offers from scratch, given the large audience required to make these profitable. While this approach is not for everybody, it's pretty hard to argue with the results that Bryan and his clients are seeing. Now, there's obviously nothing to stop you taking some of the components of this and applying it to a different business model. So if you did have a low ticket course, you could still consider resource swaps with other people as a way to grow your audience, because it's very effective. And if you already have a big or even a small audience, simply adding a high ticket coaching offer, the 5 to 10K price range, could see a dramatic increase in revenue for you. So that's an interesting path you could go down as well. Anyway, I hope you liked the interview. And if you did, please go over to our YouTube comments and let us know. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, which is coming out in 2 weeks' time. And let us know as well, is there anybody else you would like us to interview on this podcast? So thanks again for watching the Authority Hacker podcast. I will see you next time.